Hi everyone, welcome back to Workshop. You know, I'm always on the lookout on eBay for some electronics gear, test equipment to repair. Because as you know, I've done one or two little bits and pieces there by way of repair and refurbishment and that sort of thing. Well, the other day I came across something which I really couldn't resist. It only cost me about 25 UK pounds to buy, and it just caught my attention for what it was. So let's have a look. So what you're looking at is a Dataman S4. It's a handheld, battery-powered EEPROM or PROM programmer. I used to use one of these in the professional environment in the 90s by the bucket load for programming the likes of Flash ROMs and 27 series EEPROMs, that sort of thing, and really nice to use. You had a serial connection to a PC which you can download your hex files. You could edit the hex files on the keypad here and then directly program the ROMs, etc. on the ZIF socket at the side there. Really good to use. There was a predecessor for it called the S3. The S4 just built upon that with a few extra added facilities, etc. Now these things come up every now and then on eBay, and you know, anywhere between £100 and £250. You know, they still go for quite a premium considering the selling price before they were made obsolete was £5.99 or maybe £4.99 UK pounds. You know, so like I said, there's a printout of what one looks like, and another one there from a side view, just to show you how small it was there. So I've actually gone ahead and bought one of these on eBay, a non-working or supposedly non-working model. However, it doesn't look nothing like what you see in the photograph. Let's take a look. So here it is. Like I said, doesn't look nothing like the Dataman model. It's badged as an S4 programmer, but look a little bit closer, it's actually badged as a Solartron S4 programmer. And you know, you can clearly see that that's the keypad there in the LCD, albeit the keypad's upside down for some reason. And it's been recased in this bench top case here with a few extra push buttons there for enter, escape, and a few LEDs, etc. And of course the ZIF socket's been changed out for this, you know, to program directly this package only. So what's going on? So I've done a little bit of research, not much, and I've found that there's more than just this one available. These have actually come up on eBay once before, that at least I can see, and it sold for about £16. And actually this one's badged Programmer number 2, so I kind of think there's more than one of these going around, certainly two. And I'm just wondering whether Solartron, the company that make those multimeters, etc., voltmeters, perhaps bought the original S4s from Dataman and reboxed them for their own workshop personnel to use. That's what I'm thinking is perhaps what we're looking at here, and perhaps have incorporated the power supply inside, because it just used a brick, the original one, to give it a direct AC supply on the back here. Now it's down as being tested in 2014, which isn't that long ago. But I'm guessing that they became redundant at some point, and basically one or two of these units hit eBay. So my plan is not to get this working in its state that you see it now. What I'm hoping to do is get it back to its original format, and that's as it left the factory at Dataman. But what we've got inside the case, I haven't got an idea. The original eBay ad didn't show any internal photographs. All it mentioned was that it was untested, and of course somebody's been inside it and the keypad was put in upside down. I can kind of see a little bit in the side there, and I see a little bit of sealant, so I'm guessing that's what was used to hold the keypad to the front panel. But how professionally or how badly the whole Dataman S4 was taken apart and reconstituted inside this enclosure, who knows. I don't know at all whether the original case, as you see here, is intact. I suspect that this has been thrown away and that the original keypad here has been cut out of the front case there. So like I said, I suspect that the case is long gone, so I will actually try and contact Dataman themselves. I know it's a unit, they don't make these anymore, but whether they've got some old stock you know, cases for them, who knows, I can only ask. But in the meantime, let's open it up and let's see what we've got inside. So let's go. A couple of screws in the bottom from what I can see. At least that one there. This one down here is already gone. Take off this two here. All these screws are slack, so somebody's been in it before. The other one that I saw on eBay a long time ago did look like it was a working model. The keyboard, at least the keypad was around the right way, etc. But here we go. Let's have a look inside. Okay, let's take a close look. Okay, first things first, over the right hand side there we've got the original Dataman S4 brick. I kind of thought that's what they'd done, so that's good. We've got the original board there, and you can see the zero insertion force, the ZIF socket over on the left hand side there, which is matches up with that there, so that's good. There's a little bit of burnt PCB there, or darkened there on what's, I'm presuming that's a bridge rectifier. I think the output from the power supply is 12 volts AC, so yes, there's a bridge rectifier there consisting of 4 diodes, and it looks a bit darkened there, so it looks like it's been overheating a bit. Looking at the top side, here's what they've done here. This is a kit that you can buy. The original Dataman S4 come with a whole load of add-on modules that you could purchase to adapt different packages, you know, quad packages, and other types of microcontrollers that you can plug on here, like the 8051 series, etc. It wasn't just EPROMs and PROMs that you could plug in there. You did have adapters for all sorts, 24C series memory, etc. you could plug directly on there. So I think what you've got here is just one of those adapters there that basically give you this package here, which basically just plugs in there. I was a little bit afraid that what was going to happen was that they could have removed this ZIF socket here and soldered directly onto the board up onto the top of the unit there, but they haven't done that, thankfully. So as a bonus, I get this module here that I can keep separately. Now the original keypad would have plugged onto the front here, onto this, where they've put this ribbon cable on here, and if you follow the ribbon up, it goes along up onto here and up onto the back of the keypad there. And looking at the keypad, it does look like indeed they've cut out that keypad from the original front panel there, so that they can mount it. It's a half decent job at mounting it there. They've got these brackets that they've arranged on the front there, and you can see the ribbon cable coming down onto the keypad there. Similarly, the LCD is just used as a parallel drive LCD that they also have extended off of the main board up onto the LCD itself, so doesn't look too bad. I should be able to you know, roll that mods back to the original board. And of course they've got a few extra wires there because they do have some extra functionality, like keypad enable on the back. There's a keypad enable push button and a reset switch, etc. And of course this RS232 connector on the back there, which looks like they've done something there. They've extended off of there via some discrete wires to the back of the panel there. So I think the next thing to do is just start stripping it down. I'm not going to make any notes. I'm just going to start taking it all apart, unsoldering all these extra wires, and just get it back to the bare bone components. I can just imagine if it did actually come from Solartron, the company themselves, that they just handed one of the original, you know, Dataman S4s to some of the junior guys in the workshop and just said, look, go away and follow this procedure and turn this, you know, original Dataman S4 into the package that we can use in and around our department. Whether that was actually the case or not, I don't know, but I know from my career that's probably what I would have done anyway. Now we've got a battery pack in the bottom here. So here's the battery here connected. It's not the original battery, it's the same format. It uses these same type cells, but I think this is one they've made up. The original ones used to, you know, never used to last very long, so I suspect that this is one they've made up, and hence it's covered in this brown and black insulating tape. But it uses the original loom here for it anyway, the connector, and that's it connects onto the back there, so that's that disconnected there, and nothing else on the back. And there's the original reset switch on the side, and I think yes, that was the on-off switch on the side as well, which is obviously why they've got this wires coming away off onto the back of the panel here. That's your main on-off switch there, so we'll just disconnect all that as well. And yes, that reset switch there, I think this is here tying onto the back of the panel there for reset there as well, so we'll just get rid of that and that. And what else have we got here? This is keypad enable, so it looks like they've hacked into the circuit here a little bit to enable and disable the keypad. There was no original keypad disable switch on the original keypad, so somehow or other they've managed to get that to work. I'm just a bit hesitant about cutting this one out, because I'm trying to remember inside the original Dataman S4 whether the 25-way D-type that we've got in the back here was actually connected, soldered on directly onto the board, or whether it had a short loom itself. I can't remember. I suspect that it was soldered onto the back of the board. However, it's not got the normal footprint for the likes of a right-angled 25-way D-type PCB connector. This looks like it's got one row on one side and then offset slightly another row on the other side. So it's possible it just used a straight 25-way D-type that put the pins either side of the board and were soldered on. Either that, or it did have a short loom originally that they've just lengthened in this case here. So I think I'll just go ahead and snip that off, because I can always redo that, that's not a problem. So there we go, that's the main board stripped out of the enclosure anyway. And so what else we've got here that I didn't cover, this is a contrast adjust pot for the LCD, if I remember rightly. So back down to the enclosure again. Only thing I need out of here now is the battery pack, although what sort of state that's in, and of course the power supply. So let's have a look, see how they've held that in. I think this is just double-sided tape or sealant. Yeah, it's just double-sided tape that's holding that down. And the power supply looks to be held in by a couple of screws, a couple of nuts there. So I think probably what they've done here is opened up this brick and put a couple of screws right through from the inside so they could get these nuts on the back here. That's an interesting label in the back there, sketch number 502334, so what that is. And there's a couple of Tessa stickers here, looks like from 2002. The thermistor is now on the battery, so they've made a modification, and the NiCad battery pack was changed as well. Interesting. So they must have performed and logged maintenance on these units. And they've made up these small angled mounting arrangements here to hold the board at an angle. Interesting. Let's see. There's no brick out, which I'm just going to snip the wires. There's a brick out. I don't need nothing out of here at the moment. I'll just snip this earth, get that out of the way, and then move on to this. So first things first, we'll just get this module because it's probably a little bit fragile. It's just those studded clips. That's it, there we go. So you've actually got two modules here. I've got an adapter, a simple adapter there from a DIP package to an 87C51 package in the top there. So that's good to have. And I've also got an original Dataman S4 8751 adapter here. It's a sandwiched PCB and it's sealed right in the middle there. And I have actually used one of these in the past. We're programming some 8751s back in the day. This wasn't a cheap module back then either. So back down onto here. So the next thing is the LCD. This is probably the original LCD. I mean, these LCDs are just generic, you know, LCDs, but it looks to be the same, similar size from the front anyway as to the original, so I don't think they've tried to use a bigger one or a smaller one or anything like that. It does look like it's the original. There we go. Oh, all falling apart here. Oh, they've sealed it. I think there's some double-sided tape holding that in place as well. Yeah, hopefully I don't break. Yeah, some foam, double-sided foam tape, which I'm going to have to be careful not to. Oh, that's tight. There we go, got it. So there's the original LCD there. That'll clean up alright. No, I think it just pulls out actually. There we go. Didn't need to cut that. That's good. And then the keypad. So they have actually gone to the trouble of producing this kit. An adapter kit here, even with this little ribbon cable retention clips there. All over the place, and there we go, there's the keypad. So that's it, that's the keypad there, and yeah, they've just cut that. You can see the remnants of an original mounting screw there, so they have just cut that out of the original housing. Yeah, more on that in a minute. So here we have the remains of a Dataman S4. So I guess the question now is, where do we go from here? Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is contact Dataman and see if I can get an original housing from them. Failing that, I do have a backup plan, and because I've got a laser cutter, what I'm going to do is, of course I can't replicate this entire housing exactly as you see here, but I think I can replicate some flat cutouts with holes in the right places for, you know, mounting the LCD, mounting the keypad in the right place, and above this board here, using the mounting holes on this board here, so that I can basically reconstitute a working S4 in the same format as it was originally, just without the bells and whistles like sides, etc. Although I could probably laser cut some sides as well and mount them on the side there, so think about that. Okay, next thing to do is start tidying up this main PCB. I think the first thing I'll do is I'll remove this ribbon here. As you can see, it looks like the ribbon's just been soldered into the original single inline socket there for the keypad. And looking at the original keypad here, you can see some nice gold plated contacts there, and that obviously just plugged directly in there. That basically put the ZIF socket at the same level as the original keypad, or the original top case there anyway. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'm going to remove this single inline socket there, and I'll put in a new one that will interface with these contacts here. Then I think the next thing after that is to start do a similar thing with the LCD. Oh, looks like, wait a minute, looks like I don't need to do that. This has just been plugged in there. Wonder why they never did it at that end. It would have been a little bit better for me. So that's tidied up that no end. Okay, so I think the next thing is just start desoldering some of these wires here, because I don't need them. I'll be reverting back to the original switches, which thankfully they haven't removed from the PCB, and similarly over here. And then I'll take a look at this 25-way D-type and see if connections here, and see if I can work out what's happened there. Of course, this is all assuming this board still works, which I'm hoping it does, but we can just do one step at a time until then. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and done, I've sort of pre-assembled the parts that I've got. I've fitted the LCD to the board here, the main board, via its connector at the top there. I've done the same with the keypad. As you can see, there's a single inline socket there, and the keypad's actually sitting as it should do. If you look here, you can see it's at a slight angle to the main PCB. That's how it's meant to be because of the slope on the original S4 case, and actually the keypad's got a little plastic bit there that actually sort of sits in that hole in the corner of the LCD there, so that's what it's supposed to do. So the battery pack for the unit's dead, so I've just gone ahead and I've connected up an 8.4 DC supply to the battery connector here, so in order I can test it. I've put the thermistor back on there, back onto the PCB, and so we'll try powering it up and see what happens. And we've got life. Dataman S4, 128 KB RAM, no library loaded. No library loaded, what that means is, more than likely, this battery in the back here is flat. What used to happen with these things here, you could, depending on the device that you were programming, whether it be an EEPROM or an 8751, whatever, you used to get a bank of different EEPROMs with a bunch of libraries on each EEPROM, and so therefore you could preload the S4 with any range of devices. There wasn't enough memory on the S4 to preload everything, hence you used to get individual EEPROMs for banks of devices, and you would basically just sit it in the ZIF socket, load the library, and then off you went. Now obviously with that battery being flat in the back, I think it's lost its preloaded library, therefore it's coming up no library loaded. That's how I remember the S4 working anyway. So we'll just try the keyboard. It should be working. Well, it's responding to key presses anyway. Burn 27256, enter. Oh, yes, failed at 0000. Well, that's obvious, I haven't got a device in. So it's set up. That's for the serial protocol, if I remember rightly. Yes, baud 9600. Info. Battery 8.4 volt, 27 degrees C, no charger. Perfect. So it's looking good. I think I'll go and disconnect it now and see what we can do with the enclosure. Right, I have been in touch with Dataman, and I did ask them if they had any second-hand or new old stock enclosures, and would you believe they've got one left, and this is it here. They did say it was second hand, or perhaps that was a miscommunication on the phone there, because I mean it came in a nice cardboard box, it is shrink wrapped, it looks to me like it's brand new, it's not worn on the back here where it would sit on a table or a desk or anything like that. Looks brand new. Of course, it comes with the keypad already built in, but it does come with an LCD, and what you're seeing here, this tail here, is for the piezoelectric sounder that goes on the back there. You know, when you hit the keys it beeps at you, that sort of thing there. So wow, let's open her up and let's put her together. So, you know, Dataman were very good about this. I basically got it for nothing. All I had to do was pay the carriage. Now looking at it, maybe it is second hand because there's a slight discoloration to the back there. So perhaps it is second hand, but I mean it looks, yes it is, it's a little bit of dirt down in here. So basically it looks brand new. No. Yes, and there we go, LCD already mounted, rear of the keypad with the single inline connector there, and battery compartment here, piezoelectric sounder, and it does actually come with the screws to put it together, and it also comes with there's a plastic circular thing that plugs it basically into the contrast adjust port, a little wheel that basically sticks out the side of the enclosure here for adjustment there. And it also comes with a little on-off switch. It's a little cap for the on-off switch here, and the guy did tell me on the phone it did have those things there. Now before I put the main board on, I do have to look at this 25-way D-type at the back. Now I have looked at some photographs on the net, and indeed the connector is soldered directly onto the board with a row of pins from the connector on one side and then the other side on the side of the board there, and basically it just sits like that there with the D-type just sticking out the back there, or just inside the rear of the housing there. So I'll go and desolder these wires here and see if I can get a connector that'll fit. Right, there's it almost back together again. I've got the PCB mounted, it's just like a press fit onto the actual front panel there, and it's located by the four little plastic standoffs there. And I fitted the battery. I had to take the plastic shrink wrap that I'd put in the battery because it increased its size too much and it wouldn't sit properly in the little tray here. I think because the batteries I've got, the terminals at the end stick out, you know, too far. I think it's really meant for those type of batteries with the little flat tabs in them that makes them a little bit shorter. But I've managed to shoehorn that in there. So I've just got to connect it up now and put it back together. And the only thing I will have to open it up again is to change this battery here. This button cell's rechargeable, but it's knackered. I don't have a new one as yet, and I'm waiting on it to arrive. So I need to go back into this once I get it back together again. Of course, the D-type's fitted as well. It was indeed just a solder fit to the board there, so I've managed to get that done. There was one broken pad. I think it got ripped off during the conversion to extend the wires out, but I've managed to do a little bit of a repair job there and get it back together again. So let's see if the two halves will go together properly, and of course see if it powers up. So there's the Dataman S4 resurrected back to its former self. So let's power it up. Slider switch on the side, and we've got a display. And we'll just check the keypad, and we should also hear the piezoelectric speaker. Yep, that's working okay. And there's the D-type on the back end there. Some of you may have noticed on the PCB there was this dual inline ribbon header here. That's actually used for emulation. What you can do is, via ribbon cable, attach this to your target board. Instead of plugging your EEPROM into your target board, you would plug in the S4 loaded with the same hex file, and therefore you could just hit this emulate button on the keypad and it would emulate the EEPROM and you could run the system. It meant for quicker development of your target software. You didn't have to burn EEPROMs all the time. You could basically just you know, emulate the EEPROM, upload new software to the S4 and then just hit the emulate button again, dead quick. So one last thing I'd like to test, and that's the actual AC adapter. So at the moment I'm just running off the battery here, so it's got no charger on the LCD there. I want to plug in the charger and it changes to charger off, which just means it's not charging at this moment in time because the battery is full. But that looks like it's working okay. If I pull it again, it should change no charger. So one other thing I can demonstrate, and that was actually these modules here, the sort of thing that you can get for the Dataman S4. And basically it just plugs into the ZIF socket here, you pull it down there, and there we go. We're able to program 8751s in this case. So the only thing remaining for me to do is go away and play with the library EPROMs. I'll download a few off the website, burn a few EPROMs, and try out the various libraries. Of course, I'll try and get my hands on some different adapters there, you know, these sort of things here, so that I can program the different packages. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.